Hey guys, Chris Malloy, Platform Specialist here at ServiceNow. I get asked a lot about application scoping, and I thought I would just do a quick video covering some of the basics. So, what is application scoping? Well, for one, I don't like the name application scoping. I like to think of application scoping as really a workspace. It's a way of collecting application files together that do a particular function. Now, that function may be a full-blown app like an invoice management or property management application. But they may also just be minor additive changes to out-of-box apps or integrations or utility apps, oftentimes not even needing a data model. Here are some of the benefits of the design and runtime protections you get with the scoped application model. Alright, so let's show you how to create one of these workspaces. Here's my ServiceNow instance, and what I like to do is I want to show you two things. One, up here, this is the application picker. You can add this in your header if you don't see it by going into this little gear icon and going to the developer tab and just making sure you have application picker turned on. What this does, it lets you choose which application scope you're working in. That way, if you change anything while you're in your ServiceNow instance, they get collected in this workspace. The other way you can add files to your container is by working in Studio. This is how I like to create my workspace as well. I know it says create application. Remember I told you about the misnomer. I actually like to think of these as workspaces instead. But I do a create from scratch. And I'm going to create a video 1 application scope or workspace. And you'll see now it's available for me to choose from. I have no files within this container, but I can also add files here. So if I wanted to add a new business rule, for example, I can do that. Let's go ahead and just create one so you can actually see a file in here. This is an incident. Since I told you you can make additive changes to out-of-box tables, this might be a place where I want to add a new business rule to the incident. Before insert, do something. And what you see now is a new business rule that was created and now is contained within my application scope. So as I said, you can add files here. A lot of times I'll create workflow from Studio, or I'll do reporting from Studio, but I do like to go back to what I call the main ServiceNow frame and make changes here as well. Just remember that if you do it this way, you need to make sure in the application picker your scope is selected. So just another way of doing things. Now the types of files that go into this workspace, pretty much anything that you can create in ServiceNow can be in your container, can be within that workspace, including data. You have to actually specifically assign data. You have to wrap it in what we call metadata, but it can also be added to that container as well. Okay, so let's talk quickly about how applications talk to each other. This is a very important feature, especially if one of the value adds that we have being a platform is that we share a single data model. And what that means is my loan origination application can use data from my asset management if necessary. And how we do that is, we're going to need to create a table for me to demonstrate this. So I'm going to create a quick table here. And we're going to call this loan origination. You'll notice the namespace. It is unique, so it uses my company code and application context to give it a database name, and that's how we maintain uniqueness. Now there's a tab called Application Access. Now, this is where you can let other applications, as an app designer, you can decide, I want to shut this down. This data is private only to this application scope, or I would like to share this across the single data model. This applies as well for script includes. So here in my data model, I can choose I want to be able to interact with this with web services, and I want to allow access through the API to all other application scopes running on the ServiceNow instance. And like I said, if you look at script includes, they have a similar property. Workflow as well, there's a few application files that have this property, but you'll see it'll say accessible from, and it lets you decide how you want other applications to interact with that particular file. So if I go ahead and submit this table, you'll see it show up in my container. Let's just give it a quick quick column here, submit, and now you'll see it'll create a bunch of new application files. Some of them are access controls as well, since I created a data model, so you'll get quite a bit when you create the data model. But the main point is, remember, it's in the right application context, and we've defined how other applications can communicate with it. Now, there is one more esoteric way of having applications communicate with each other, and that is through event-driven architecture. So you can fire events and have other things listening, and ServiceNow supports that as well. You'll see as part of one of the application files you can create, it's event registration, so you can actually send events and fire events through the API, and other apps can listen for those. Okay, just a couple more things to talk about before I end this video. The first thing is how to publish an application when it's done to other ServiceNow instances. Now, the scenario that I have here, these are non-developer instances. I prefer to use the Git repo when pulling code from instance to instance in the development environment, but once I publish to UAT, test QA, and production, I like to use the ServiceNow repo. Now, there are two ways you can actually promote code into those environments. The first one is, and I'll show you the one I do not encourage first, just to show you that it's there. There may be times when you still need to work with update sets, but hopefully you will remove that from your vocabulary when I show you the other way. So I can click on application, in this case the video one application at any time, and I can publish to an update set. And what that does, it takes a snapshot of all the application files contained within that workspace. It builds an update set that can be deployed and migrated to other instances. So that's one method. Now, the preferred method that I like is I like to actually go into, sorry, switch screens on you there. Within Studio, I like to file and publish my changes this way. Now, because I'm using a ServiceNow instance, it's not going to load this, but this is a way of putting your code on the ServiceNow repo. And what you see is, so if I published on one repo, the client side, or the one that will be getting the install, should be able to, if you go into the applications module, you'll see there are certain applications available for install. So once you've published to the repo, not using update sets, you should be able to install your application or install a new version. Everything is, like I said, version controlled when working in app scope. And this is just one way of being able to promote code without using update sets. So really, on your dev instance, you publish, and then from the client instance, you can install. And you'll also see updates will show up here as well. So if you publish a new version, it will show up in this list as something that can be upgraded. Now, the last thing that comes up often in conversations I have is, what do I do with my legacy code? I definitely want to work in scope. I need to know what to do with all this stuff I've already pushed to production and have running in the global scope. If that doesn't make sense, what I'm saying, then probably don't need to worry about it. Just always do things in scope. But one of the issues we're trying to work through right now is easy migration tools to take global things you've done in global that are legacy and get them into scope so you can take advantage of all these features. Currently, the best way to do that is just to support what you currently have with update sets and working in the global space. But any new changes or new additive features or fixes that you need, try to do a rewrite at that point and do it in scope. So you may have two deployment models until we can convert everything, but it's really, the choice is yours. Everything works as you're used to if you choose just to keep working in global using update sets. But if you want to start slowly migrating legacy code, it may require a rewrite until we can come up with a better solution in a future release. Anyways, appreciate you hanging out with me. Thanks. I hope this helped. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Subscribe. I will start doing more of these videos. And thank you very much.